All right, I'm back. Honey, let's make old nasty pot of great northern beans, honey.
Whipping up all of your favorite recipes. Simply Food.
You should know by now that you're in for a treat.
Simply Food.
There's no other channel where you'd rather be.
Simply Food. Seafood, pasta, cakes, and pies. Sing and laugh and even cry. Like and share and hit subscribe. Simply Food by TY.
All right, y'all, so today I'm going to show y'all how to make a pot of great northern beans. Now, what you're looking at here is I have 2 pounds of great northern beans that I soaked overnight. Now, just so y'all know, before I actually add the water into them, I typically kind of like to go through the beans, get rid of any ones that are discolored, but then the next morning, right before I cook them, as you can see, any of the ones that are floating to the top, I'm also going to get rid of those as well. Now, some people say that this step is unnecessary, but I was always taught that any beans that float to the top after they've been soaking, they ain't good beans, so get rid of them. So I'm going to get rid of those, go through them one more time, give them a good rinse, and then I'm going to go on ahead and get ready to start cooking these. Now, just so you know, you don't necessarily have to soak them for 8 hours, but when you do soak your beans overnight, that does break down some of the enzymes in them so that it's easier to digest, and also it, drastically reduces the cooking time. So take all that into consideration, and let's keep on going, honey. In this particular recipe, I'm going to be adding in 8 stalks of celery. Now, because of the sheer size and the amount of beans that I'm making, I'm doubling this. So, of course, if you're only going to make 1 pound of beans, only use 4 stalks. We're going to break these down into a small mince. Alrighty, so what you guys are looking at here is I have a very large stock pot. As you guys heard me say earlier, I'm going to be cooking 2 pounds of beans. In this particular recipe, I am going to be using pork. You do not have to use pork. You can use smoked turkey necks or any type of other smoked meat that you would like, or you can use no meat at all. Of course, if you choose to use no meat, you'll have to adjust your seasonings. And speaking of adjusting seasonings, if you're going to be using smoked turkey versus smoked pork, then clearly you're going to also have to adjust your seasonings, because when you're using something like a smoked pork product, you want to be very cautious on how many ingredients you're adding that contain salt, because it's very easy to make your beans overly salty if you get out of control with that, because again, pork is very salty. So again, I have this smoked pork bone here in the pot. I'm going to bring this water up to a boil, put the top on this, and allow this to create a nice concentrated stock while I continue to work on prepping the vegetables. I will also be adding in 2 large sweet Vidalia onions. And I'd also just want to make sure that I mention something really quick just before everyone, has a fit. When I add this to the pot, if you are a person that really likes texture, as far as like you like the crunch of vegetables, when you add in these veggies, only add in half. Me personally, I do not like that. I want all of it to be the same texture. I want it to be nice and soft, essentially all just kind of melting in my mouth. That's how I like my beans. The only texture that I like in mine is the texture that comes from the meat itself. But if you are a person that wants to taste the crunch of the celery, the crunch of the carrot, the crunch of the onion, what I would suggest is only adding in half of the amount of the veggies to the pot, and then in the last maybe 30 minutes or so of cooking, then you can add in the rest of them, and that way you'll still have a little bit of crunch. So just know that option is there. I do not do that, but you absolutely can. Now, let's get back to breaking down these onions. Also, just know you don't have to be too particular about how you're breaking these down, so don't go stressing yourself out about if it's down to a full mince or not, because the sheer amount of time that all of these are going to be cooking, most of this is going to break down into nothing but flavor, honey. So as long as they're roughly around the same size, that's all that really matters. So don't get too caught up on, oh, they all need to be the perfect size, because they don't. You can also use a food processor to kind of skip all this chopping if you don't want to do it, but just don't go too overboard. You don't want to liquefy the vegetables. So just know you have options if you're not a person that likes to deal with knives or any of that stuff. And I'm also not one of those people that's too bougie to say, when you go to your grocery store, if they have those vegetables that are already like pre-chopped up for you, honey, use them. All right, and what you guys are looking at here is the leftover honey-baked ham that I had from this past Thanksgiving. Now, again, if you guys are going to be using smoked turkey, adjust everything accordingly. But I'm going to tell you something right now. If you're going to be using ham that had any type of sugar on it or that was relatively sweet, you want to make sure that you're keeping in mind that you're adding in some sort of spice to kind of cut through the sweetness, so that way you don't end up with a pot of like sweet Great Northern beans, because ain't nobody got time for that. So now that I got this all chopped up, I have my veggies all chopped up, my beans are washed. Now we can go on ahead and get ready to start adding everything to the pot. Look at that. Look at the color already. It just smells absolutely divine in this house. So now I'm going to go on ahead and add in all of our delicious vegetables. Add all of those directly to that pot, just like so. And then I'm also going to add in all of the diced ham as well. We're going to keep that bone directly in there. You can also now go on ahead and add in all of the ham as well, and then give this a good mix. And now we're going to go on ahead and add in our 2 pounds of our soaked Great Northern beans and give those a mix as well. And as you guys can see already, like, look at how that's like the perfect amount of liquid. But see, as you guys know, those beans are going to soak up a lot of that liquid. So I am going to be adding in some chicken stock, just so you know. And of course, once we remove the bone, which we will be doing eventually, that's also going to take out, you know, some of the extra space that's in there. But already, y'all, this is smelling delicious. I'm going to go on ahead and start adding in some of my seasonings, but I'm going to let you know right now, the one thing that I will be avoiding at this stage is adding in any seasonings that contain salt. Once again, if you're going to be making your Great Northern beans, starting with a pork base, you want to avoid adding in any seasonings that have salt until you're getting to the final stages of the recipe. Because number one, all pork ain't made equal, honey. And you do not want to mess around and make your stock overly salty, because you're going to extract a lot of sodium from that ham bone alone. So let me go on ahead and grab a couple seasonings, Chad. Before I do that, I'm going to add in 2 32-ounce containers of chicken stock. And I know some of you guys are thinking, boy, that is way too much liquid. But trust me, honey, it's not. I know what I'm doing. I've been making these for many years, Chad. Add in 2 32-ounce containers of chicken stock, chicken broth, whatever you would like. It's completely up to you. Alrighty, I'm going to add in some black pepper, onion powder, and some garlic powder. Not too much on the garlic powder. Don't go crazy. And I'm also going to add in 3 dried bay leaves and give that a mix. For right now, those are going to be the only seasonings that I'm going to add to this pot for right now. There are going to be many other seasonings that's going to be added in, but for right now, this is all we're going to focus on. Once this comes up to a boil, you're going to place the top on it, and then you're going to reduce the temperature down to a low. Honestly, I'm not even going to say a medium low. Just turn it down to low. You want these beans to cook nice and slow. So I'm going to allow this to come all the way up to a boil, place the top on it, turn it down to low. And I'm going to allow these to cook anywhere between 2 to 3 hours. And then I'll come back, let you guys know when it's time to start adding in additional seasonings. All right, y'all. The beans are looking absolutely divine. Okay. They are looking just the way I want them to. They are essentially done. As you can see, that water drastically reduced. The water line started up here, and you can see how far down it's gone. So now is the time when I'm going to go in. I'm going to taste the stock, and then and only then will I be able to start adding in the elements of salt. All right, so I'm going to go in with a little bit of seasonal salt. Not too much on the seasonal salt because I'm going to be using spike as well. So that's about enough for that. Again, you're going to have to, measure out the seasonings on your own, because that's drastically going to depend on what type of meats you're using, or if you use meat at all, how much pork you're going to put in it. But at least you guys will know what seasonings I'm using. So that was seasonal salt. Now I'm going to go heavy with my spike seasoning. The spike seasoning is really where I want a majority of my flavor to come from. I'm also going to add in a few dashes of accent. And then because I want to cut just a little bit of the sweetness, I do a few dashes of cayenne pepper. And we're also going to add in just a little bit of Slap Your Mama Creole seasoning. Not too much, but, just enough. And now we're just going to go on ahead and give this a good old mix around. And as you guys can see, it has completely reduced down. Like I said, it started up here. It's come all the way down here. I like to keep just a little bit of juice in mind. But I want to show y'all that the bone has completely, look. The meat has fallen completely off of this ham bone. And we're going to keep that in there because all of that bone marrow, it just adds more flavor to the stock. I'm telling you, these beans are absolutely divine. And in the very last steps, I always like to add in 1 stick of unsalted butter. It just adds a level of creaminess to the whole dish. My God, on today. My God, on today. Look at them. Look at them. Don't ask me for no damn ingredient list. Goodbye.